The courtroom smelled of polished wood and old money. Caroline Bennett stood near the mahogany table, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the divorce papers. Across from her, 3 women in designer clothes whispered behind manicured hands, their laughter cutting through the formal silence like broken glass. They were her husband's family, his sisters, and they had never once tried to hide their contempt for her. She was nothing to them, a nobody, a waitress from a small diner in Brooklyn who had somehow caught the attention of their brother 8 years ago. They called her gold digger behind her back and smiled to her face. They mocked her clothes, her accent, her lack of education. And now, as the divorce proceedings dragged on, they sat in the gallery like vultures waiting for the final verdict. Marcus Bennett sat at the opposite table, his lawyer whispering something in his ear. He looked bored, detached, as if the dissolution of their marriage was nothing more than a minor inconvenience in his otherwise perfect life. He owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across New York. He drove a different sports car every week. He had a penthouse in Manhattan and a beach house in the Hamptons, and he had made it very clear that Caroline would leave this marriage with nothing. The judge shuffled papers. Caroline's lawyer, a young woman fresh out of law school who had taken her case pro bono, looked nervous. The Bennett family had connections everywhere. In the legal system. In City Hall. In places Caroline could not even imagine, this was not a fair fight. It had never been. She thought about her daughter, Lily, 7 years old with curly brown hair and her father's green eyes. The only good thing that had come from this marriage. Marcus wanted full custody. He said Caroline was unstable, unfit. He had witnesses, character references, a psychological evaluation that painted her as emotionally damaged. All lies, all carefully constructed lies designed to take away the only person she truly loved. The sisters laughed again. One of them pointed at Caroline's shoes, simple black flats from a discount store, nothing like their Italian leather heels. Caroline felt her face burn with shame, but she kept her chin up. She had learned long ago that showing weakness to these people only made things worse. The judge called for a brief recess. 15 minutes. Caroline walked out of the courtroom on shaky legs, desperate for fresh air. The hallway was crowded with lawyers and clients, all of them too absorbed in their own problems to notice the woman falling apart in the corner. She found a bench near a window and sat down heavily. Outside, New York City sprawled in all its chaotic glory. Yellow cabs, honking horns, people rushing to destinations that seemed impossibly important. She had loved this city once. Now it felt like a prison. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Do not sign anything today. Caroline stared at the message, her heart rate accelerating. She did not recognize the number. She typed a quick response. Who is this? 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No reply came. She was about to dismiss it as a wrong number when another message arrived. Your husband is not who you think he is. Neither is his family. Trust no one in that courtroom. I will find you when it is safe. Caroline felt a chill run down her spine. Her fingers hovered over the screen, unsure how to respond. Before she could type anything, her lawyer appeared at her side. We need to go back in. The judge is ready. Caroline slipped her phone into her purse, the mysterious messages burning in her mind. She followed her lawyer back into the courtroom, her thoughts racing. What did the stranger mean? Who was Marcus, really? And why did she suddenly feel like she was standing at the edge of something much larger and much more dangerous than a simple divorce? The judge cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the final testimonies. Marcus's lawyer stood, buttoning his expensive suit jacket. Your Honor, we would like to call our first witness, Mrs. Eleanor Bennett. Marcus's mother rose from the gallery, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, her expression cold as marble. She walked to the witness stand with the confidence of a woman who had never been denied anything in her life. Caroline watched her take the oath, knowing that whatever came next would be designed to destroy her. Eleanor began to speak, her voice dripping with false concern. She described Caroline as volatile, neglectful, prone to fits of hysteria. She claimed to have witnessed Caroline screaming at little Lily on multiple occasions. She suggested that Caroline had only married Marcus for his money and had never truly loved him. Every word was a lie. Every sentence was a carefully crafted weapon, and Caroline could do nothing but sit there and take it, her lawyer's objections overruled one after another by a judge who seemed far too friendly with the Bennett family. The sisters continued to whisper and laugh. Marcus checked his phone, looking bored, and Caroline felt the last remnants of her hope crumbling into dust. When the recess came again, she did not go to the hallway. She went to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and finally allowed the tears to fall. 8 years. 8 years of trying to fit into a world that never wanted her. 8 years of enduring the subtle cruelty, the constant judgment, the way they made her feel small and worthless, and now they were going to take her daughter too. She heard the bathroom door open. Footsteps, then a voice she did not recognize. Caroline Bennett. She froze, wiped her tears, slowly unlocked the stall door. A woman stood by the sinks, tall, dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing a black pantsuit that probably cost more than Caroline's entire wardrobe, but her eyes were kind, concerned, human. "Who are you?" Caroline asked, her voice hoarse. "My name is Sophia. I work for someone who wants to help you." "Help me?" Caroline laughed bitterly. "No one can help me. The Bennetts own this city." Sophia shook her head slowly. "The Bennetts own nothing. They are puppets, small players pretending to be important. The man I work for is the one who holds the strings, and he has taken an interest in your case." Caroline felt the room tilt slightly. "I do not understand." "You do not need to understand right now. You just need to trust me. When you go back into that courtroom, do not sign anything. Do not agree to anything. Stall for as long as you can. Someone will contact you tonight with more information." "But who is this man? Why does he care about me?" Sophia was already moving toward the door. She paused with her hand on the handle and looked back at Caroline with an expression that was almost sad. "Because Marcus Bennett owes him a very large debt. And you, Mrs. Bennett, are about to become the most valuable piece on the board." She was gone before Caroline could ask another question. The bathroom felt empty and cold. Caroline stared at her reflection in the mirror. Pale skin, red eyes, trembling hands. She looked like a woman who had already lost everything. But something had shifted, a tiny spark of something that might have been hope, or might have been fear. She could not tell the difference anymore. She walked back to the courtroom, took her seat, watched Marcus's lawyer call another witness, another lie, another attack on her character. But this time, when her lawyer asked if she wanted to respond, Caroline shook her head. "Not today. I need more time." The judge frowned. "Mrs. Bennett, these proceedings have already been extended twice." "I understand, Your Honor, but I am requesting one more continuance. I believe there is evidence that has not yet been presented, evidence that could significantly impact the outcome of this case." Marcus sat up straighter. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. The sisters stopped, laughing. For the first time all day, the entire Bennett family looked worried. The judge sighed. "Very well, we will reconvene in 2 weeks. But Mrs. Bennett, this is your final extension. I expect you to be fully prepared." Caroline nodded. "Thank you, Your Honor." As she gathered her things, she felt Marcus's eyes on her, suspicious, calculating. She did not look at him. She walked out of the courtroom with her head held high, her heart pounding, and her mind racing with questions she could not yet answer. Who was the mysterious man who wanted to help her? What did Marcus really owe him? And what exactly did Sophia mean when she said Caroline was the most valuable piece on the board? She stepped out onto the street. The afternoon sun was warm on her face. She took a deep breath and began to walk, not knowing where she was going, only knowing that everything was about to change. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number. "Well done. A car will pick you up at 7 tonight. Come alone. Wear something comfortable. We have much to discuss." Caroline stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed a single word in response. "Okay." check if you are already subscribed to this channel. If you are not, take a moment to subscribe now. This story is just beginning, and what comes next will change everything you think you know about power, revenge, and love. Do not miss a single moment. The black sedan arrived precisely at 7. Caroline had spent the afternoon pacing her small apartment in Queens, alternating between terror and anticipation. She had changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on jeans and a simple blouse. Comfortable, like the message had said. Lily was with her mother for the night. Caroline had called to check on her twice already, listening to her daughter's cheerful voice describing the cookies they were baking together. It was the only thing keeping her grounded, the only reminder of what she was fighting for. The driver did not speak. He simply opened the rear door and waited. Caroline hesitated for only a moment before climbing inside. The leather seats were soft and expensive. The windows were tinted so dark she could barely see outside. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. They drove for what felt like hours, though it was probably only 40 minutes. The city gave way to suburbs, then to winding roads lined with old trees. Finally, the car turned onto a long private drive flanked by iron gates that swung open automatically. The house that emerged from the darkness was not a house at all. It was an estate, a massive stone structure that looked like it had been transported from the Italian countryside and dropped into the hills of Connecticut. Ivy climbed the walls. Fountains gurgled in the courtyard. Lights glowed warmly from dozens of windows. The driver opened her door. Caroline stepped out, her mouth slightly open. She had seen wealth before. The Bennets had wealth. But this was something different. This was power made visible. A man waited at the front door, not the mysterious benefactor Caroline guessed, but someone who worked for him. He was tall and broad, with the kind of physique that suggested he spent more time in a gym than behind a desk. His face was neutral, professional. "Mrs. Bennet, please follow me." She followed him through the entrance hall, her footsteps echoing on marble floors. The walls were lined with paintings that looked like they belonged in museums. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Fresh flowers perfumed the air. Everything was beautiful and intimidating in equal measure. They walked through a long corridor, past closed doors and silent rooms, until they reached a set of double doors at the very end. The man knocked twice, then pushed them open. The study beyond was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the rest of the house. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with leather-bound volumes and curious artifacts. 2 leather armchairs faced each other across a Persian rug. In one of them sat a man. He was older than Caroline had expected, perhaps 50, with silver threading through dark hair that was swept back from a strong, angular face. His eyes were grey, the colour of storm clouds, and they watched her with an intensity that made her want to look away. He wore a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, no tie, no jacket. His hands were clasped in front of him, and on his right hand she noticed a ring with a crest she did not recognize. "Caroline, please, sit down." His voice was low and measured, with the faintest trace of an accent she could not place. She walked to the empty chair and sat, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. "You must have many questions," he said. "That is an understatement." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I appreciate directness. It is a rare quality these days. My name is Dominic Caruso. I am a businessman. I have interests in many industries across many countries, but my primary business is not one you will find in any official registry." Caroline felt her throat tighten. "You are in the Mafia." He tilted his head slightly. "That word means different things to different people. Let us say that I operate in a world where the rules are different, where loyalty means more than law, where debts are always collected, and where family is the only thing that truly matters. And Marcus, what does he have to do with any of this?" Dominic rose from his chair and walked to a small table where a crystal decanter sat alongside 2 glasses. He poured amber liquid into both and handed one to Caroline. She did not drink. "Marcus Bennet is a fool," he said, returning to his seat. He inherited his father's dealerships and his mother's arrogance, but none of their intelligence. 5 years ago, he came to me for money. His businesses were failing. He had debts he could not pay. I gave him what he needed in exchange for certain considerations. What kind of considerations? Dominic swirled the whiskey in his glass. Information, access. Occasionally, the use of his dealerships for moving certain items across state lines. Nothing that would attract attention. Nothing that would put him in direct danger. He was useful for a time. And now? Now he believes he has outgrown our arrangement. He has been skimming money, feeding information to my competitors. Worst of all, he has been speaking to federal investigators, trying to trade what he knows about my organization for immunity. Caroline felt the blood drain from her face. Marcus is an informant. He is trying to be, but he does not know as much as he thinks he does. I have been careful about what information reaches him. Still, his betrayal cannot go unanswered. And where do I come in? Dominic set down his glass and leaned forward, his grey eyes locked on hers. You, Caroline, are the key to everything. Marcus may not love you, but he fears losing control of you. He fears what you might know, what you might have seen over the years. That is why he is fighting so hard for custody of your daughter. He wants leverage. He wants to keep you silent. I do not know anything about his business dealings, I swear. He never told me anything. I believe you. But Marcus does not know that, and more importantly, the people he is trying to betray do not know that. If they believe you have information, they will come for you. If they believe Marcus has exposed them through you, they will come for both of you. Caroline's hands began to shake. What are you saying? I am saying that you are in danger, whether you choose to help me or not. The only question is whether you face that danger alone or with my protection. Protection. The word hung in the air between them. It sounded like safety. It also sounded like a cage. What do you want from me? She asked. I want you to continue your divorce proceedings. I want you to fight for custody of your daughter. I want you to act as if nothing has changed. And while you do that, I will dismantle Marcus Bennett piece by piece until there is nothing left of his empire but ashes and regret. And if I refuse, then I will still destroy Marcus. But I will not be able to guarantee your safety or your daughter's. It was not a threat. It was a simple statement of fact. Caroline understood in that moment that she had stumbled into a world far more dangerous than anything she had ever imagined. A world where men like Dominic Caruso made decisions that affected hundreds of lives, where loyalty and betrayal carried consequences beyond anything the law could provide. She thought about Lily, about her bright smile and her innocent laughter, about the way she said "mommy" like it was the most important word in the world. Caroline would do anything to protect her, anything at all. She met Dominic's eyes. What do I need to do? His expression softened almost imperceptibly. Now you need to rest. You look exhausted. There is a room prepared for you here. In the morning we will discuss the details. Sophia will bring you everything you need. I cannot stay here. Your daughter is safe with your mother. I have people watching the house. No one will harm her while she is under my protection. Caroline wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was catching up with her. The stress of the courtroom, the shock of the evening, the weight of everything she had learned. It was too much. One night, she said, and then I need answers. Real answers. You will have them. Dominic rose and extended his hand. Welcome to my home, Caroline. I hope you will come to see it as a sanctuary, not a prison. She shook his hand. His grip was firm but gentle, warm, human. It was easy to forget, looking into those grey eyes, that this man commanded an empire built on shadows. Sophia appeared as if summoned by thought, leading Caroline through more hallways until they reached a suite. That was larger than her entire apartment. The bed was enormous, covered in silk sheets. Fresh flowers sat on the nightstand. A robe had been laid out, along with toiletries and a change of clothes. If you need anything, Sophia said, just press the button by the bed. Someone will come immediately. Caroline nodded numbly. Sophia left, closing the door softly behind her. For a long moment, Caroline simply stood in the center of the room, trying to process everything that had happened. Then she walked to the window and looked out at the darkness beyond. Somewhere out there, Marcus was probably celebrating another successful day in court. He had no idea what was coming, no idea that the woman he had dismissed and belittled for 8 years was now allied with the most powerful man he had ever been foolish enough to betray. A small smile crossed Caroline's face. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just discovered that they held a weapon they never knew they possessed. Tomorrow she would learn how to use it. The morning light that filtered through the windows of the estate was soft and golden, nothing like the harsh fluorescent glare of Caroline's apartment in Queens. She woke slowly, disoriented at first by the unfamiliar surroundings, then gradually remembering where she was and why. She found fresh clothes waiting for her, simple but elegant, a soft cashmere sweater and tailored pants that fit perfectly. Someone had guessed her size with unsettling accuracy. A knock at the door announced Sophia, who led her downstairs to a bright breakfast room overlooking gardens that seemed to stretch forever. Dominic was already seated at a long table, a newspaper in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. He looked up as she entered and gestured to the seat across from him. "I trust you slept well." "Better than I have in months," she admitted. A woman in a white apron appeared with plates of food, fresh fruit, warm pastries, eggs prepared in a way that seemed almost artistic. Caroline realized she was starving. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Dominic set down his coffee and fixed her with those grey eyes. "Today I will tell you about your husband," he said. "Not the man you thought you married, the real Marcus Bennett." Caroline set down her fork. "I am ready. Marcus's father, William Bennett, built his dealership empire in the 1980s. What most people do not know is that William had help. My father's help. They were partners in a sense. William handled the legitimate side of the business. My father used the dealerships to move money and goods across the Northeast. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement that lasted for decades. And when your father died?" Dominic's expression flickered. "My father was taken from us 12 years ago, a betrayal from within our own organization. I spent 5 years hunting down everyone responsible. When I emerged, I was no longer the son of a boss. I was the boss myself." Caroline absorbed this information. "And William Bennett?" "William continued our arrangement, though he was always nervous about it. When he passed away 3 years ago, Marcus inherited everything, including the debt." "What debt?" Dominic smiled without humor. "My father lent William a considerable sum during the financial crisis of 2008. William never fully repaid it. When he died, that debt passed to Marcus. Instead of honoring it, Marcus decided to play games. He thought he could outsmart people who have been playing this game for generations. And now he is trying to inform on you. He is trying. But Marcus does not understand that the moment he walked into that federal building, he sealed his fate. My people inside the Bureau informed me within the hour. Since then, we have been feeding Marcus carefully selected information, nothing that can truly harm us, but enough to make the prosecutors believe they have a valuable witness." Caroline's mind was racing. So when the truth comes out, Marcus will be exposed as a liar. His testimony will be worthless, and the people he thought would protect him will abandon him to face my justice alone. There was something coldly beautiful about the plan. Caroline had never thought of herself as someone who could appreciate vengeance. But after 8 years of Marcus's casual cruelty, after the way his family had treated her, after the lies they were telling in court to take away her daughter, she found that she could appreciate it very much indeed. "What happens to Marcus when this is over?" she asked. Dominic was quiet for a moment. "That depends on several factors. How cooperative he becomes, how much damage he has truly caused, and whether he continues to threaten the people I have sworn to protect. People like me." "Yes." Dominic's voice softened. "People like you." Caroline looked down at her hands. They were steady now. stronger than they had been in years. "I spent 8 years feeling powerless," she said quietly, "feeling like I did not matter, like I was nothing compared to his family, his money, his connections. And now you are telling me that all along, he was the weak one. He was the one living in fear." "Power is often an illusion," Dominic said. "The Bennetts project strength because they know how fragile their position truly is. You, on the other hand, have real strength. You survived them. You protected your daughter. You kept your integrity in a world that tried to strip it away. That is worth more than all the money in their accounts." Caroline felt tears prick at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever seen her that way. They spent the rest of the morning going over details. Dominic explained that he had people everywhere. In the courthouse, in Marcus's company, in the Bennett family's inner circle. He knew about every lie they had told, every bribe they had paid, every dirty secret they had buried. The time was right. All of it would come to light. "Your job is simple," he told her. "Continue the divorce proceedings. Fight for your daughter. Let Marcus believe he is winning. And when he becomes overconfident, when he lets his guard down completely, we will strike. And the sisters, the mother, they will learn that their laughter was premature." Caroline thought about Eleanor Bennett on the witness stand, lying with such practiced ease. She thought about the sisters whispering and pointing. She thought about every humiliation, every slight, every cruel word. "Good," she said. That afternoon, Sophia gave Caroline a tour of the estate. There were gardens and greenhouses, a stable with beautiful horses, a pool that sparkled in the autumn sun. There were also less visible features, security cameras hidden in every corner, guards who moved through the grounds like shadows, a safe room buried deep beneath the main house. "This place is a fortress," Caroline observed. "It has to be," Sophia replied. "Mr. Caruso has many enemies, but he also has many resources. No one can reach him here. No one can reach anyone under his protection." Caroline watched a group of children playing on a distant lawn. "Whose children are those? They belong to some of our people. Mr. Caruso believes in family. He provides homes for those who work for him, schools for their children, health care for everyone. This estate is like a small village, a community." It was not what Caroline had expected. When she thought of organized crime, she thought of violence and fear. Not children laughing in gardens, not schools and healthcare, not the warm breakfast room or the comfortable bed, or the way Dominic had spoken to her with such genuine respect. Maybe the world was more complicated than she had believed. That evening, Dominic invited her to join him for dinner. They ate in a smaller room this time, more intimate, with candles flickering on the table and soft music playing in the background. The food was Italian, prepared by a chef who had apparently worked in Rome for 20 years before coming to work for Dominic. "Tell me about your daughter," Dominic said as they ate. Caroline's face lit up. "Lily is 7. She is smart and funny and kind. She loves animals and art and making up stories about imaginary worlds. She is the best thing that ever happened to me. Children are a blessing." Dominic's voice carried a weight that made Caroline look at him more closely. "I had a son once. Had. He was taken from me. The same night my father was. He was only 4 years old." Caroline's heart clenched. "I am so sorry, I cannot imagine." "No, you cannot." Dominic's eyes were distant, lost in a pain that had never fully healed. "But it is why I do what I do. Why I built what I built, so that no one in my care will ever experience what I experienced, so that children like Lily will always be safe. Is that why you are helping me? Because of what happened to your son?" Dominic was quiet for a long moment. "Partly, but also because I see something in you, Caroline. A strength that has been hidden but never broken. You deserve better than what life has given you, and I find that I want to be the one who gives it to you." The words hung in the air between them. Caroline did not know how to respond. She had been married for 8 years to a man who had never once made her feel valued, and here was this stranger, this dangerous and powerful stranger, looking at her like she was something precious. "I do not know what to say," she admitted. "You do not have to say anything. I am a patient man." Pause here for just a moment. If this story is touching something inside you, if you feel the weight of Caroline's journey and the hope beginning to bloom in her heart, then do something for me. Leave a comment right now with these words: "Everyone deserves a second chance." Let me know you are here, that you are feeling this story as deeply as I am feeling it telling it to you. Your comment matters more than you know. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of preparation and planning, of legal strategy sessions and secret meetings. Caroline returned to the courtroom with a new lawyer, one who had been quietly recommended by Dominic. A woman named Rachel Chen, who had a reputation for taking down powerful men who thought they were untouchable. Marcus noticed the change immediately. His smug confidence wavered when Rachel stood up and began presenting evidence that his previous lawyer had somehow overlooked. Bank statements showing hidden accounts, testimony from former employees describing workplace misconduct, documentation of the lies his mother had told under oath. The sisters stopped laughing. Marcus stopped checking his phone. Eleanor Bennett sat rigid in her seat, her face pale beneath her expensive makeup. But this was only the beginning. Each day brought new revelations. Each hearing peeled back another layer of the Bennett family's carefully constructed facade. The judge, who had once seemed so friendly with Marcus's legal team, began asking pointed questions. The media started paying attention. Reporters appeared outside the courthouse, hungry for scandal. Through it all, Caroline maintained her composure. She answered questions calmly and honestly. She let Rachel do the aggressive work while she projected the image of a devoted mother fighting for her child. Public sympathy began to shift in her direction, and behind the scenes, Dominic's people continued their work. Caroline learned that Marcus had been meeting with federal prosecutors almost weekly. He was promising them information about money laundering, about interstate smuggling, about crimes that would make headlines across the country. What he did not know was that every piece of information he provided was being monitored. Every meeting was being recorded. Every lie he told was being documented for later use. The trap was closing, slowly and inevitably. During this time, Caroline found herself spending more and more time at the estate. At first it was practical. It was safer there, away from the reporters and the Bennett family's private investigators. But gradually, it became something more. She began to feel at home in that beautiful old house. She began to look forward to her dinners with Dominic, their conversations that ranged from philosophy to art, to the simple pleasures of good food and better company. One evening, as they walked through the gardens after dinner, Dominic told her about his childhood in Sicily, about his grandmother who had raised him after his mother died young, about the lessons she had taught him, about honor and family, and the importance of keeping one's word. "She sounds wonderful," Caroline said. "She was the strongest person I ever knew. When my father brought us to America, she stayed behind. She said Sicily was in her blood, and she could not leave it. I visited her every year until she passed. She lived to be 93. Do you miss her?" "Every day." Dominic paused, beside a fountain, watching the water catch the moonlight. "She would have liked you, I think. Why? Because you have her spirit. You bend, but you do not break." Caroline felt warmth spread through her chest. No one in her life had ever compared her to someone they admired so deeply. "I do not feel strong," she admitted. "Most days I feel like I am barely holding on." "That is what strength looks like," Dominic said gently. "The people who never struggle are not strong. They are simply lucky." True, strength is continuing forward when everything inside you wants to stop. They stood in silence for a moment, the fountain singing softly beside them. Then Dominic reached out and took her hand. His touch was gentle, tentative, as if he was asking permission. Caroline did not pull away. "I know this is complicated," he said. "I know you are still married, still fighting a battle that demands all your attention. I do not expect anything from you. I only want you to know that when this is over, when you are free, I will still be here, waiting, for as long as it takes." Caroline looked at their intertwined hands. His skin was warm against hers. His presence was solid, reassuring, like an anchor in a stormy sea. "I do not know what the future holds," she said honestly. "I do not know who I will be when this is over. Then we will discover that together. If you want." She squeezed his hand. "I want." It was not a declaration of love. It was something more careful, more honest. A promise to explore what might be possible. A door left open to a future neither of them could yet see clearly. Meanwhile, Lily remained safely with Caroline's mother. Caroline visited every few days, spending hours playing games and reading stories and simply being present. She did not tell Lily about Dominic or the estate or the dangerous game being played behind the scenes. She only told her daughter that she loved her and that everything would be okay. And for the first time in years, Caroline believed it might be true. The turning point came on a cold November morning. Rachel called with news that made Caroline's heart stop. "The federal prosecutors have dropped Marcus from their witness program," she said. "Apparently they discovered that most of the information he provided was false or misleading. They are no longer offering him immunity." What does that mean? It means Marcus is now vulnerable. Without federal protection, he has no shield against the people he tried to betray. And without the immunity, he has no leverage in the divorce proceedings, so we can win decisively. "I am filing motions today to accelerate the custody hearing. Given the new circumstances, I expect full custody to be awarded to you within the month." Caroline had to sit down. Her legs would not support her. After everything, after all the fear and the fighting, it was finally happening. "There is more," Rachel continued. "Our investigators have uncovered evidence that Marcus has been hiding significant assets, money that should have been disclosed during the divorce proceedings. This is grounds for serious financial penalties. He could lose everything. Everything, his dealerships, his properties, his investments, all of it. He committed fraud, Caroline, and now he is going to pay for it." That night, Caroline told Dominic the news. They were in his study, the fire crackling warmly, snow beginning to fall outside the windows. "It is almost over," she said, her voice trembling with relief. Dominic smiled, but there was something cautious in his expression. "The legal battle is almost over, but Marcus still has one card left to play." "What do you mean?" "He knows he has lost. He knows his empire is crumbling. Men like Marcus do not accept defeat gracefully. They lash out. They become dangerous. You think he might try to hurt me? I think he is desperate, and desperate men are unpredictable." As if to prove his point, Caroline's phone buzzed. A text from a number she recognized all too well. "Marcus, you think you have won. You have no idea what I am capable of. Enjoy your victory while it lasts. It will not last long." Caroline showed Dominic the message. His jaw tightened. "You will stay here," he said, "until this is resolved. Lily and your mother as well. I'm bringing them to the estate tonight." "Is that necessary?" "Yes." Dominic's voice was hard, certain. Marcus has nothing left to lose. That makes him more dangerous than he has ever been. Within hours, Caroline's mother and daughter arrived at the estate. Lily was wide-eyed with wonder at the enormous house, the gardens, the horses. She ran from room to room, discovering new treasures everywhere. Caroline watched her daughter's joy with tears in her eyes. "This is like a palace," Lily exclaimed. "Are we going to live here, Mommy?" Caroline knelt down to her daughter's level. "We are going to stay here for a little while, until it is safe to go home. I like it here." Lily's smile was radiant. "Can I see the horses tomorrow?" "Of course you can, sweetheart." Caroline's mother, a practical woman named Helen who had raised her daughter alone after her husband's early death, took everything in stride. "I always knew that man was no good," Helen said quietly, while Lily explored the library. "But this is something else entirely." "I know it is a lot to process," Caroline replied. "That man, Dominic, he cares for you. I can see it in the way he looks at you." Caroline felt her cheeks warm. "It is complicated. Life is complicated, dear. Love does not have to be." The next 2 weeks were tense. Security around the estate doubled. Dominic's people monitored Marcus's movements constantly. He had retreated to his penthouse in Manhattan, surrounded by lawyers trying to salvage what was left of his crumbling empire. But Marcus was not idle. He was planning something. Dominic's sources inside the Bennett organization reported hushed phone calls, secret meetings, transfers of money to accounts that could not be traced. "He is hiring someone," Dominic told Caroline one evening. "We do not know who yet or for what purpose, but we will find out." The waiting was the hardest part. Caroline tried to maintain a normal routine for Lily's sake. They played games and read stories and went for walks in the gardens. Lily adored the horses and had already named her favorite one Stardust. She seemed to have forgotten that they were supposed to be hiding. One afternoon, while Lily was napping, Caroline found herself in Dominic's study. He was standing by the window looking out at the grounds with an expression she could not read. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I am thinking about what happens next," he replied, "after Marcus is dealt with, after the trial is over. And what do you see?" He turned to face her. "I see you, Caroline. I see Lily. I see a life that I never thought I would have. A second chance." "At what?" "At family." Caroline crossed the room and stood beside him. They looked out at the snow-covered gardens together, at the world made clean and white. "I was married for 8 years," she said softly. 8 years of feeling invisible, of being told I was not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of love. I forgot what it felt like to be seen. "I see you," Dominic said. "I have seen you from the first moment we met. Why? Why me, out of all the people in the world? Because you reminded me of someone I lost, not in appearance, but in spirit. My wife. She was taken the same night as my son. I have spent 12 years building walls around my heart, convinced that I would never feel anything again. And then you walked into my study, terrified but unbroken, and those walls began to crumble." Caroline reached out and touched his face. Her fingers traced the lines around his eyes, the grey at his temples, the weight of years and sorrow. "I am scared," she admitted. "Scared of what I feel, scared that this is all a dream that will end badly. I am scared too, but I have learned that the things worth having are always the things that frighten us most." She kissed him then, softly at first, tentatively. He responded with equal gentleness, as if she were something fragile that might break. But there was nothing fragile about the way her heart raced, the way her blood sang, the way her entire body came alive under his touch. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing heavily. "I have wanted to do that for weeks," he confessed. "So have I." They stood together in the fading light, holding each other, not speaking. Words seemed unnecessary. Everything that needed to be said had been said in that kiss. That night, Caroline lay awake in her room, her mind racing. She thought about Marcus and the threat he posed. She thought about Lily and the life she wanted to give her. She thought about Dominic and the impossible, wonderful, terrifying possibility of loving him. And she made a decision. The next morning, she found Dominic in his office and told him her choice. "I want to stay. Not just until the trial is over, not just until Marcus is dealt with. I want to build a life here, with you. If you still want that." Dominic rose from his desk and crossed to where she stood. He took her hands in his. "There is nothing I want more." "Then let us finish this. Together." The final confrontation came 3 days later. Marcus had made his move. He hired men to infiltrate the estate, professional criminals who thought they could outmaneuver Dominic's security. They were wrong. Dominic's people intercepted them before they even reached the main gate. The hired men were arrested by local police who happened to be waiting nearby, having received an anonymous tip about a planned home invasion. Marcus's connection to them was documented, recorded, undeniable. The next morning, federal agents arrived at Marcus's penthouse with warrants for his arrest. Not for the crimes he had tried to inform on, but for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted intimidation. The evidence was overwhelming. His lawyers could not protect him. Caroline watched the news coverage from the estate's living room, Lily playing quietly nearby. Marcus was led out of his building in handcuffs, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. The sisters and Eleanor Bennett were nowhere to be seen. presumably hiding from the media storm that had descended upon their family. "It is over," Dominic said, standing beside her. "No." Caroline shook her head slowly. "It is just beginning." 6 months later. The estate looked different in summer. The gardens were in full bloom, roses and lilies and lavender perfuming the warm air. Children played on the lawn, their laughter carrying across the grounds. Somewhere in the distance, a horse whinnied. Caroline stood on the terrace watching Lily race across the grass with 2 other children. Her daughter had transformed in the month since they came to live here. She was confident now, happy, free from the tension and fear that had shadowed her. Early childhood. She had started at a new school and made friends. She called the estate home. A hand settled on Caroline's shoulder. She did not need to turn to know who it was. "The lawyer called," Dominic said. "The custody ruling has been finalized. Full custody to you. Marcus's parental rights have been terminated." Caroline closed her eyes, feeling tears of relief slide down her cheeks. It was finally, truly over. Marcus was serving time for his crimes, his appeals denied, his fortune seized. The Bennett family had scattered like leaves in a storm. Eleanor had moved to Europe, fleeing the scandal. The sisters had retreated to quiet lives, their social standing destroyed, their laughter silenced forever. And Caroline had found something she never expected to find. A home, a family, a love that did not diminish her but made her stronger. The wedding was planned for autumn, a small ceremony in the estate's chapel, surrounded only by those who truly mattered. Helen would walk Caroline down the aisle. Lily would be the flower girl. Sophia, who had become a dear friend, would stand as witness. "Are you happy?" Dominic asked. Caroline turned to face him. The man who had once seemed so dangerous, so distant, now looked at her with such tenderness that it took her breath away. She had learned over these months that the stories people told about him were both true and false. He was capable of ruthlessness, yes, but he was also capable of great love, great loyalty, great kindness. I'm happier than I ever thought possible," she said. He kissed her forehead. "Good, because you deserve nothing less." They walked down to the garden together, hand in hand. Lily saw them approaching and came running, throwing herself into Caroline's arms. "Mummy, can we have ice cream tonight? Please." "We will see, sweetheart." "That means yes." Lily grinned and ran off again. Dominic laughed, a sound that still surprised Caroline with its warmth. "She has you wrapped around her finger." "She has us both, wrapped around her finger." "True." They sat on a bench near the fountain, the same fountain where they had first held hands all those months ago. The water sparkled in the sunlight. Birds sang in the trees. Everything felt peaceful, settled, right. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," Caroline admitted, "for something to go wrong." "Nothing will go wrong," Dominic assured her. "Not while I am here. You cannot control everything." "No, but I can protect what matters, and you and Lily matter more than anything." She leaned against him, feeling his strength, his certainty, his love. "They laughed at me once," she said quietly. "In that courtroom. They thought I was nothing. And now they know the truth." The truth was that Caroline Bennett had been underestimated her entire life, by her husband, by his family, by a world that measured worth in money and status. But in the end, she had won. Not through power or manipulation, but through resilience, through love, through the simple refusal to give up on herself and her daughter. And the man she had found along the way, the dangerous man with the gentle heart, had seen her true value from the very beginning. If you have watched this far, it is because this story has touched you, because you believe in second chances and the power of love to transform even the darkest circumstances. So do something for me now. Leave a comment saying, "I have watched this far," so I can get to know you and see who really enjoys the stories here on the channel. And if this story has moved you, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to believe in the possibility of redemption. Thank you for being here with me on this journey. 1 year later. The autumn leaves fell like golden confetti as Caroline walked down the aisle of the estate chapel. Her dress was simple, elegant, white. Her mother walked beside her, tears streaming down her face. Ahead, standing at the altar with a smile that transformed his entire face, was Dominic. Lily stood nearby, basket of rose petals clutched in her small hands. She had performed her flower girl duties with absolute seriousness, and now she watched her mother approach with an expression of pure joy. The ceremony was brief and beautiful. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promises of partnership and protection, of love that would weather any storm. When Dominic kissed her, the small crowd of witnesses erupted in applause. Afterward, there was music and dancing and a feast. That lasted until the stars came out. Lily fell asleep in her grandmother's arms, exhausted from joy. Caroline and Dominic stole away to the garden, to their fountain, to the place where everything had truly begun. "Mrs. Caruso," he said, and the name sounded like a blessing. "Mr. Caruso," she replied. They stood in the moonlight, arms around each other, hearts full. "They laughed at me once," Caroline murmured. "They will never laugh again." And they never did, because the woman who had been dismissed, as nothing, had become everything. She had survived the storm and emerged stronger. She had found love in the most unexpected place, and she had proven, once and for all, that the people who underestimate quiet strength always lose in the end. This was not a fairy tale. This was real life, messy and complicated and beautiful. A story of fear transformed into courage, of pain transformed into power, of a single mother who refused to give up, and a powerful man who learned to love again. They laughed before the divorce. They did not know her husband would become the Mafia boss, and they certainly did not know that she would become the woman who changed him forever. The end.